When Scandinavian settlers divided Northumbrian land in 1876, Halfdan stood at the end of a conquest already 10 years old. York had fallen before contemporary English annals clearly placed him at the army's head. 2 Northumbrian kings had died, rival claimants had followed, and political geography had been repeatedly redrawn. Calling Halfdan the conqueror is defensible only if conquest means a process rather than one victorious assault. His importance rests in converting military occupation into a settlement recorded by his opponents. The route begins in 866, when the great Scandinavian army entered Northumbria and seized York. Northumbria was then divided by rivalry between King Osbert and the recently installed King Ella. Faced with invasion, the 2 rivals reportedly united and attacked York in March 867. Both kings were killed, leaving the invaders holding the kingdom's central urban prize. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle does not name Halfdan as commander of that first capture. Later saga tradition makes him Ragnar Lodbrok's son and participant in vengeance against Ella. That family drama cannot replace the spare contemporary sequence preserved in English annals. Northumbria's collapse resulted from military invasion interacting with an existing contest for kingship. York's Roman walls and strategic position made it valuable beyond the symbolism of defeating rulers. Roads connected the city with inland estates, while rivers opened routes toward the Humber and North Sea. Control there offered shelter, supplies, minting potential, tribute, and access to a productive hinterland. Instead, it supported client kings whose authority depended upon a new balance of force. Ecbert appears as a ruler installed after the deaths of Osbert and Ella. Archbishop Wulfhere also navigated the dangerous transition, representing an ecclesiastical institution that survived political rupture. These continuities mattered because conquerors needed revenue and cooperation from functioning communities. Farmers still produced food, church estates retained local knowledge, and routes required maintenance. Violence had removed kings, but administration depended upon people who remained. The army soon campaigned elsewhere, demonstrating that possession of York did not mean permanent concentration there. Moved into Mercia, wintered at Nottingham, and faced combined Mercian and West Saxon resistance. A negotiated settlement ended that confrontation without a recorded decisive battle. The force then returned through York before campaigning in East Anglia. Mobility allowed leaders to extract resources across kingdoms, yet it also complicated continuous territorial control. Halfdan becomes clearly visible in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle during the army's later operations. In 871, the annal names Halfdan among prominent leaders arriving or fighting in Wessex. He operated within a coalition rather than commanding a modern national army. Its followers could divide, reunite, accept tribute, or pursue different regional opportunities. Leadership depended upon reputation, retained wealth, ships, and the consent of armed companions. Campaigns against Wessex brought repeated battles but failed to destroy the West Saxon kingdom. Alfred's peace with the army redirected pressure rather than ending Scandinavian warfare in England. In 872, the force wintered at London, then moved to Torksey in Lindsey. The next winter brought it to Repton, deep within Mercian territory. Repton's position beside the River Trent connected waterways, roads, religious property, and royal authority. Archaeology there reveals an exceptional Scandinavian wintering place associated with the great army's presence. A defensive enclosure incorporated the church and riverbank, turning existing architecture into campaign infrastructure. Nearby burials and deposited objects show a mobile population more complex than a single battle unit. Dating and interpretation remain debated in particulars, but the camp securely illuminates large-scale occupation. The Repton winter ended with Mercian King Burgred driven overseas and replaced by Ceolwulf. Contemporary West Saxon writing disparages Ceolwulf as a subordinate, reflecting hostile political judgment. His rule nevertheless demonstrates how Scandinavian power could work through a local king. After Repton, the army separated into major divisions with different strategic aims. Guthrum and other leaders turned toward Cambridge and renewed war against Wessex. Halfdan moved north to the River Tyne during 874 or 875. That division marks the beginning of his distinct Northumbrian endgame. From the Tyne, Halfdan's followers attacked the Picts and the Britons of Strathclyde. The Chronicle reports activity but provides no detailed choreography or reliable army totals. Northern campaigning may have sought tribute, security, resources, or control over connected routes. It also exposed communities beyond York to seizure, displacement, and political dependence. Meanwhile, Northumbria itself was not one uniform landscape awaiting allocation. The Old Kingdom extended across varied zones, including the region around York and territory northward toward the Forth. Ecclesiastical centers, aristocratic estates, upland routes, and coastal communities possessed different capacities for resistance. Scandinavian authority was strongest where armies could hold strategic places and reward followers. Later political geography suggests that northern Bernicia retained trajectories distinct from Scandinavian York. Conquest, therefore, had edges, gradients, and negotiated relationships rather than a clean frontier established immediately. Chronicle's entry for 876 supplies the crucial transformation. It states that Halfdan divided the land of Northumbria and that the army began ploughing and supporting itself. Those words shift the evidence from campaigning toward colonization. Warriors receiving land required boundaries, seed, livestock, tools, labor, and arrangements with existing inhabitants. Ploughing represents seasonal commitment that tribute-taking alone did not demand. The annal does not reveal whether every allotment displaced an owner or formalized control over occupied estates. Some people likely lost land, while others remained as tenants, dependents, laborers, or local elites. The social consequences cannot be reduced to an empty countryside suddenly filled by newcomers. Place names and later settlement patterns suggest substantial Scandinavian influence across parts of Yorkshire. They record language and landholding over time, not a precise map of Halfdan's original grants. Archaeology in York reveals expanding craft and exchange during subsequent Scandinavian rule. Much of the best-known urban evidence belongs after Halfdan, so it illustrates consequences rather than his personal program. Metalwork, weights, coins, and imported materials show York connected to broad commercial networks. Political protection and taxation helped make those networks usable, although conflict never disappeared. The conquest's durable outcome was a Scandinavian-ruled center embedded within existing Northumbrian structures. Halfdan's own tenure there appears brief when measured against that transformation. Irish annals record a leader called Alban killed near Strangford Lough in 877. Many historians identify Alban with Halfdan, linking his death to a struggle involving the Dublin Norse. The identification is widely accepted, but not absolutely secure, because the sources use different naming forms. If correct, Halfdan left Northumbria to contest power across the Irish Sea and died soon afterward. Such movement would fit an elite world where York, Dublin, and Western sea routes were politically connected. It would also show that settlement did not convert every leader into a stationary landowner. Later, Norse literature calls him a son of Ragnar, giving his campaigns a celebrated family framework. Contemporary annals never establish that parentage, despite preserving Halfdan as a genuine historical commander. The surname Ragnarsson is therefore a conventional identification rooted in later tradition, not an early documentary fact. His Northumbrian significance does not depend upon proving descent from Ragnar. It rests upon recorded decisions made after years of collective campaigning. Halfdan inherited a conquered York, helped maintain pressure across northern Britain, and presided over land division. He was neither the sole architect of invasion nor merely another name in the great army. The political mechanism changed while he held power, moving from supported kings toward armed settlers. That transition helps explain why 876 matters more than a cinematic retelling of York's capture. Battles eliminated rivals and opened gates, but land allocation created a different future. Families, churches, farmers, craftsmen, and merchants then lived within institutions reshaped by Scandinavian authority. New settlers adapted to local fields, waterways, markets, and legal customs rather than building on untouched ground. Northumbrian cultural life continued, while language, names, art, and political allegiance acquired new Scandinavian elements. The evidence securely gives Halfdan a leading role at its decisive territorial stage. Cannot tell us the exact rules used to distribute estates or negotiate every local submission. Documents explaining those arrangements would transform our understanding, but none survives from Halfdan's administration. The Chronicle's brief image of warriors ploughing must carry an unusually heavy historical burden. Read carefully, it describes conquest becoming subsistence, possession, and a claim upon future harvests. Halfdan's Northumbria was won by a coalition, fragmented by local realities, and stabilized through settlement. His conquest culminated not when a king fell at York, but when an army placed ploughs into Northumbrian land.